So what interests me now with Shohei Ohtani is what he's going to do. And we're reading everywhere, breaking news. Shohei Ohtani has boarded the plane for New York to play against whatever that team is. The New York Mets. We promised we wouldn't even talk about them. Do not put their name in your mouth. History would tell us that he likes hitting, he wants to hit, he's going to keep hitting, and he's going to delay. Tommy John, what's the difference? Do it in a month instead of today. They're not going to make the playoffs. The season ends in a little over a month. No problem. I vehemently disagree with that. It is a big problem. Every day that you delay Tommy John is a day that you will not play in 2024. So what would be his reason? He loves the game? He doesn't want to let his teammates down? He thinks the Angels still have a chance? Don't say it. He wants to get 50 home runs? No. That is not at all how Japanese players think. Does he have an interest in finishing what he started, not looking like a quitter? Shohei, a little word of advice. Please, get your second opinion. The way second opinions work is they come from a pre-approved list. In the collective bargaining agreement, there's a pre-approved list of who second opinion doctors can be. Players are allowed to get a second opinion. The first opinion is from the team doctor, then the players get a second opinion from an approved doctor, and then you talk to the team. But the team doesn't decide which players get surgery when. The player does. We can't force our players to get Tommy John. We can't force our players to get the bone chip removed. Your arm's locked up. You can't straighten it. I think you should get surgery to remove bone chips. All right, I don't want surgery. Fine. You're not pitching. Not our problem. The issue is when a player's on a long-term deal and they choose not to have surgery. Instead, they choose the conservative route of let's rehab. We used to call it the Tanaka. The Tanaka is when you try to be healthy without surgery, and it works. That is rare. So we will sit and try to convince the player and the player agent that it's in the player's best interest to get this taken care of as quickly as possible because you don't want to be ineffective. You don't want to play hurt. Players have this thing, and I get it, actually. They are under the mistaken impression that in a multiple choice test, leaving a question blank is worse than getting a question wrong. And in some exams that are standardized, which maybe you're not aware of anymore because you don't need to take standardized tests anymore for all of the 9.6% of you who are still taking standardized tests. There are some standardized tests where it's better to guess. You don't get penalized for getting it wrong. You get penalized for leaving it blank, so guess. The key is to know in advance what the rules are. In arbitration, teams will argue, this guy was on the DL 3 times. He is injury prone, and we ought to be comparing him to other such players who are injury prone. The fact is that players have the advantage in this regard because what really is looked at by arbitrators is when a player plays and is bad. Because then teams get to argue, look at this player. Here were his results. The player then says, but wait a minute, I was hurt. The arbitrator says, then why did you play? It is better to play well or not at all than to be a hero, play hurt, and play ineffectively. Shohei Ohtani is not eligible for arbitration anymore. He's still going to make his $30 million this year. He has 1 month left, 6 months at $5 million a month. He will make the $5 million for September, whether he plays an inning or not. Next year, he will be a free agent, whether he gets surgery now or not. If he wants to try to rehab and not get the surgery and get a second, third, fourth, fifth opinion, fine. You don't need to be doing anything that could in any way either delay or endanger your comeback. It makes no sense. So, of course, you've got doctors deflecting, you've got front offices, you've got players, agents. Hey, you can't get hurt more as a hitter when you need Tommy John. I've heard that before from the doctors. The theory there is that when something's ripped, it's ripped. When it's torn, it's torn. Your rotator cuff, your hamstring, it is true if your hamstring's totally torn off the bone, then running will not tear it more. But it certainly won't help you recover, will it? But with an arm, if you're not throwing and you're only hitting, and the act of swinging a bat does nothing to your elbow because of the way you hold the bat, the way you swing, you can't hurt it anymore. Let's pretend that that's true. That doesn't address my issue of the fact that it delays surgery and rehab and return. So under what scenario would Ohtani still be playing? There are no teams who will offer him more money next year because he plays the last month. There's no teams who will offer him less money if he plays the last month and plays badly, or less money if he plays the last month and well, or if he doesn't play the last month. I think those are all the scenarios. You either don't play or play, and if you play, you either play well or don't play well. You don't play and you get surgery. You don't play and you don't get surgery. Those are also scenarios. None of them will impact what Ohtani will make next year. All the front offices are now going to look at him as a hitter and figure out how to satisfy him as a player who may pitch one day, but not this day. We had to wait to see yesterday, and I don't remember whether we said it. It was in the document. We're repeating it today so there can be no doubt. Shohei Ohtani will have Tommy John surgery.